Hello crafty friends, here's Julia, and today I want to show you a coloring that I've done entirely with watercolor pencils. The German company Stabilo has sent me a set of watercolor pencils to play with, and I wanted to share with you today how I use them. This is a digital stamp by Tedley Inks, and I'll be linking to it in the video description below and on my blog. And I've printed it out on a watercolor cardstock. Now I'm starting out with one of the pencils here, and I've very lightly scribbled some color onto this flower. In my experience, it's not good if you press down too much, because you might end up with streaks that you cannot color over. Like when you touch the water to the color, you might not be able to completely blend it out. That's why I scribble it down very lightly. I was surprised at how well these pencils react with water and how easily they can be blended. And I'm going to be layering, I think, 3 or 4 layers of color onto this card. And I'm starting out with just a base layer. And you can see here that I'm putting down seriously just the lightest bit of color. I always want to make sure that I have dark shadows and light highlights, and for that it's imperative that you give yourself space for the highlights. You can always add more color, but picking the color back up might not be so easy. So that's why I like to work in layers, start out with just a little color and then intensify the color. So that's why in the beginning it looks really pale and maybe even boring. It might depend on your own taste. Maybe you like pale coloring, and then these watercolor pencils are a great medium for you because they allow you to have really soft colors. I myself, you know me, I like high contrast coloring. I would like to do some more pastel-like coloring, but once I get into the zone, I'm like, yeah, more color, more depth, more shadows. And then I forget about what I actually wanted to do. But again, that's me. You have to try out whatever you like best. And I'm using, it doesn't, because sometimes people ask me what kind of watercolor brush I use. It doesn't matter what you use. Seriously, just use whatever you have. Don't invest too much money into this kind of stuff when you're just starting out. The brush will do, seriously. So I've jumped ahead a little bit here, and by now the first layer of color has dried, and I'm coming in with the same color again, and I'm just putting it where the shadows are going to be, and you can see that I've already achieved a little bit more depth. And I'm going to repeat this on all the flowers now. You just want to make sure that the previous layer has dried when you come in with these pencils, because when you come in with pencils and it's wet, you might end up with streaks that you cannot blend out. And you also want to control the amount of water that you have on your brush, because if it's too much, then the water is going to run everywhere. And I want to make sure that I only blend out where I want to go. On this yellow, I've layered a little bit of orange, and I'm just activating this here. And you can see that I clean off my brush to the side, and I'm not pulling the color towards the very tips of the leaf, because I don't want the color to go there. When I come back into this, I usually have cleaned off my brush in between, so I'm not spreading the color too far. So as you see here, I'm scribbling down some of the orange, activating the color, pulling it out, cleaning off the brush, and then leaving it just there. I'm not worried about perfect blending right now, because I know I'll come back in with another layer. So now I'm coming in with my third layer, and this time it's a darker red that I'm using, and I'm adding a tiny bit more pressure when I put this down here, and I'm really just scribbling it down where the darkest parts are going to be. And you can see that I'm always turning my image so the tip of the color points to where the area is darkest, because I like to use the entire tip or the entire brush to pull out the color, and I think that is easiest if the tip of the brush points towards the darkest part. I don't know, it's just a technique that I found very helpful to have a soft blend. You have to experiment with it to see what your own experiences are. And you can see here, I started out with the yellow, then came in with an orange. Now I'm coming in with a brown color, just to deepen it up a little bit. It's not so much about adding color right now, it's just about deepening up the areas where I think the flower will be darkest. I'm not worried so much about, you can color flowers by having structure to them. When you have Copics, that you use the flicking technique to add a lot of detail to a flower. That's not what I'm after here. I have to admit this was also the very first time ever that I've used these watercolor pencils, so I was just interested to see how well I could blend them and how good of a coverage or how intense of a color I would get. And I feel that if you use layers, if you work in layers patiently, you can go from a very light color to a pretty intense color. Not maybe as intense as Inktense pencils would give you, but then again, Inktense pencils are not traditional watercolor pencils. So if you're more looking for this traditional watercolor look, then these watercolor pencils, I'm using the ones by Stabilo, are pretty good. Like, I like them very much. I think I have to practice a little bit more to get a better hang of them. But for me, and I consider myself a casual colorist, like I'm not a pro. I half the time I don't know what I'm doing, even though I don't appear that way, just because I'm, trying to project confidence, which you also should be doing. Always project confidence and, act as if you know exactly what you're doing. That helps usually. But sorry, digressing. Basically, I'm just a casual colorist, and for me these pencils worked absolutely fine, and I think you can get a lot of use out of a set because even if you color larger areas, those pencils will last forever, basically. So you saw me color in the flowers and the little girl hiding here, and I have cut some of it out. In total, it took me about maybe 30 minutes. I think it was about half an hour, maybe a little bit longer than half an hour to do this. And in between the layers, I actually used my heat gun to dry the coloring, so I'd come back in quicker. Then for the finishing touch, I grabbed my Copic multiliner and I'm just adding some doodling into the flowers. You absolutely do not have to do that, but you know me, I just can't help myself. And so I came in and just added a little bit of doodling here and there. Before I did that, and you can't see this on this card right now, but you will see it in the close-ups, I've actually went in with some water into which I had mixed perfect pearls to give the flowers a little bit of sparkle and shine. And you will, as I said, you will see that in the close-ups, but it's good to do this before you come in with the multiliner because I think the multiliner reacts with water, so that wouldn't be too good. So here you can see that in the close-up, the really nice sparkle and shine you can get by just adding a little bit of perfect pearls on top of this. And here you can see the gradient of color that I achieved by adding 3 layers of colored pencils on this flower. And I mounted my piece onto a piece of cardstock that I had stamped with a My Favorite Things background stamp, and of course I had to add some sequins by Pretty Pink Posh and some dots with my Jelly Roll pen, and here is the finished card, also featuring a sentiment by Altenew. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got inspired and learned something new today. If you liked this video, please leave me a comment and subscribe. I would really love that. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.